I'm Dom from Spiky Steven and Boxbot.
My name is Jose from Team Anelella.
My name is Paul Logan. I'm here from Team ACDC. I have 6 robots here today.
I appreciate you being here for us. My name's Ian McMahon. I'm tired. Was setting up arenas on Thursday. Team Slaughterhouse. Doing this for years.
So, so what inspired you guys to actually, join, build your BattleBots? Like, what was your first inspiration? What was your first experience building a BattleBot?
I saw it on TV and said, God damn, that's really cool. I want to do that. So I went out and I got myself a Viper kit and I was like, this is pretty neat. And I immediately went to an event and got destroyed by this guy over here.
For me, my stepdad had showed me BattleBots, but I never knew that you could actually show them in little competitions. So he showed me trophies and showed me to my first competition, and I drove his first bot, and I made him lose.
I started this in 2004 when I saw the original BattleBots. And I was 14 years old at the time. My mom had to drive me around to all my events. I just kind of stuck, It's just fun to try to engineer something to go out and get destroyed.
Like Paul, I started off as a teenager, about almost, anyway, '03. We found out there was an event we found out there was going to be an event in Dallas. Guy who's not here, Brady, wound up bringing out a super heavyweight. He hit a TV with it in a parking lot and sent shrapnel onto the roof of the building behind us. And that was realistically the real start, was going out to an event, and so a lot of my focus here is just to make events happen, that way more people get hooked.
Right. Excellent answers to that question. So the other thing is you guys all have very unique robots. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the different styles of robots that you each are using for battle here at Robotica.
So for me, I'm not particularly serious when it comes to robots. And I mean, as you saw earlier with stuff like Spiky Steven and Boxbot, etc., I really want to build something that might make somebody smile or laugh. I mean, what's goofier than a cardboard box with an RC car underneath fighting a $20,000 plus robot? I mean, it's just funny. So I took inspiration from this robot that I forget where it competes, but it's called the Crave Monster, and it's got this cereal box that moves up and down, and it's really cool. And it can ensnare other robots with the cereal box. And I saw that and I was like, that's really cool and really also kind of clever, because it's something that you wouldn't expect to be a combat robot suddenly being turned into a combat robot. So I decided, hey, what if I do something similar? I took an RC car from around the house, I strapped a box to it, covered it in googly eyes and felt and markers and such, and boom, the first BoxBot was born. And I decided, hey, how fun would it be to actually take this to an event? I mean, I knew I was going to get destroyed, I knew I wasn't going to win, but I knew that it would be entertaining to just watch it explode. So that's kind of the philosophy behind my bots. Have fun, die quick, I guess, but leave a lasting impression as well.
So for me, my bot, I'm more competitive than him, but not as competitive, because I get very cocky real fast. So, but my bot, his technique is we had tape on the bottom, so I can get under their wedge, under their bot faster. And it's a flipper bot, so I'll just flip them out the way, and not that way though, the other way, the better way. So, I just gotta get better with my handling and driving. So, I mean, Mr. Ian had invested. I did something. I don't know what he did. Oh. So we're talking about my bot, like where it came from, the flipper bot that I had. So it's because Mr. Ian did in a builders event thing in my neighborhood, and so why not go? We went to it, and now that bot has gone in first place for 4 times. I lost my last event. It wasn't my day. I'm alright with it.
My inspiration, I guess, comes from all kinds of different places. When I first started, vertical spinners were just getting really big, and I really liked how when a vertical spinner hits a robot, it shoots them upwards into the ceiling. So that was the design that I went after. My first robot hit or miss was not my first robot, I guess, but my first real robot. It's been a vertical spinner for 14 years. Inspiration from other robots comes from my kids. When they were old enough, or I thought they were old enough, I designed some modular robots for them. So the front end will come off, and you can put a horizontal spinner on or a vertical spinner and things like that. And I started my kids off with horizontal spinners because I figured they're a little easier to aim, and all you do is keep the front towards the enemy, and you're in good shape. So that was the first time I built horizontals, was for the kids. And then my friend Dan, I got him roped into the madness of combat robotics, and he wanted to build a drum spinner. So then that's when we learned how to build Malice and War Machine. And then a lot of that just comes from function, you know, like which materials are best in which application. So I guess the inspiration comes from whoever I'm working with at the time, I believe.
I just build things that I feel like I want to build. Yeah, I've done a lot of different things, so it's more just something, get excited about something or figure out that you can pull something off and go like, oh, I think that'll either win or look cool, or yeah, I'm either trying to win or I'm kind of trying to just do something to find out what happens and then try to improve the thing. I'm more of a, there's the people who improve things over time and the people who just try to, there's the people who come up with innovative designs and the people that more just try to make something that already exists, make it better. I wind up falling into the camp of making things that already exist better.
Okay, excellent answers. I think so. Some of you have been doing robotics for a long time. So what is the most satisfying moment for you when you're in the middle of battle?
Most satisfying moment, when the robot moves. So a lot of the things that I build, they're not complex. It's just an RC car. I don't really have to deal with any motors or such. I wouldn't really count them as robotics. It's more just a big arts and crafts thing. But the thing, the thing with me is that when I put all this junk, if you will, on this RC car, it tends to not move quite right when I first try it out because it's usually really weighed down. For example, Spiky Steven, it tipped over 4 times today if it even just grazes a wall. Boxbot, or it originally had forks. I had to cut those off because it wouldn't turn. So I had to. It's really satisfying when I'm like, okay, this is moving smoothly. It's not catching on anything. None of the extra parts I put on it are getting caught on the wheels and such. And it's a random train. It's just really nice to see something that I didn't create the chassis, but I created the box that goes on top of it. It's really cool to see something that you've put time and effort into actually move. It's really cool. It's the best part.
So, what was the question again? Oh, okay, sorry. For me during battle, when it comes to me going against a spinner, obviously I get scared that's gonna break my bot, but I know I'm a better driver because I get very cocky. Anyways, so I guess when I hit them and there's 5 5, maybe 10 seconds left, and I pit them, it's just nice and satisfying knowing that I managed to defeat them without having to go and finish the time.
I'm not gonna lie. The most satisfying thing is when you get to destroy somebody, or when you get destroyed yourself. Today I destroyed a couple robots, which was fantastic, and I also got my robot destroyed a couple times, which was absolutely fantastic. Something else that's satisfying is when you engineer a part and it works, and you get to see, the improvements as you go through. Yeah.
For me now, it's not the actual fighting robots that's a satisfying thing. I teach workshops where we put together robots, and basically seeing someone that has no clue what they're actually doing manage to solder together a robot and the thing works at the end, they're playing with it. I'd say that is it for me for most satisfying thing in combat robots currently.
Perfect. That's actually a good lead into my next question. Is from so with Innovation Spark, this organization I run that we put on this Robotica event with, our mandate is we want to inspire kids to get into STEM type skills, sort of science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, mixing those all together to build their bots. So, can you say or maybe relate to how you've learned some new stuff? Like, what have you learned about electronics? What have you learned about assembly, 3D printing, whatever? What is the main thing that you've learned through this process that maybe you can give other people some insight into in terms of what learning experience have you accomplished through this process?
Oh boy, this one's actually slightly tougher for me because I, again, just build stuff like Spiky Steve in the Box Bot. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's to not go completely overkill, I guess, with decoration, because that tends to kind of get in the way sometimes. But on a more serious note, there's a definite thing that I've learned, and it's you can reuse things that you think might be broken. Whether it be old chassis that are cracked or top panels that are fractured. If there's a will, there's a way when it comes to repairing things. You don't have to just build it again from the ground up. I mean, it might not be exactly the same as when it started out, but it's still going to maintain some of that structural integrity. And you basically just, if a part's broken, there's probably a way to fix it, and if there's not, I mean, you can just go buy a new one. They're not that expensive. But yeah, just try to reuse your parts. Again, if there's a will, there's a way to reuse something.
So I think what I learned the most was figuring out how the electronics explode, and I'm still learning the names, but I have learned a couple of the names for them. And so I guess I think I'm almost ready to build my own line, but still got some more stuff to learn. So learning the names and the vocabulary terms for that stuff is something I've learned a lot, which is weird.
I do a lot of STEM stuff with my my robots. I don't like to do any out of house. I like to build my whole robot in house. Okay, so if my 3-pound robot needs frame rail CNC'd, I buy a CNC machine and I learn how to use Fusion 360. If my robot needs a printed part, I buy a 3D printer, I convert it over to print nylon, I make a box for it, and I print all my nylon parts. So there's a lot of parts on my robots that, you need very specific parts for, like the 3D printers, and I have a 3D printer set up just for nylons, and then I have a printer just for TPU. And then out in the garage I have a mini desktop CNC, which was fantastic because, I didn't think I'd be able to wrap my head around, how to run a CNC machine, but it turned out really good. So it's really great when you get into the sport. There's lots of things you can learn, such as that.
I don't know. I've been doing this for 19 years. Essentially, I have the benefit of time on all of these things. Where I started off without access to equipment, so you wind up just learning things one step at a time. Like 3D printers really didn't exist as a commercial thing when I started, and yeah, so I had to learn that. Learned CAD when I was a really little kid, or like teenager. Messed a bunch of things up. Just yeah, I don't know. Just slowly building. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then, so this will be the final question: is what advice would you give to anyone new that wants to get into the sport? Like, give them some ideas on where they may start, or what types of things they should focus on. Any ideas that you have in terms of someone new coming into the sport? What advice would you give them?
I definitely have some to give here, and this is probably said a lot by a lot of people, and for a good reason. Start small, please. I beg of you. Like, if you try to go instantly to heavyweights, you will, well, I'm not going to say you will fail because there are exceptions. There are definite exceptions. But if you try to go straight to heavyweights, there is a 99.9% chance that you will probably fail. So try to start in the 150 gram or 1 pound. Those are small weight classes. You can buy kits online for these, and you can learn how they work. And then when you feel ready, then that's when you upscale. Go to 3 pounders, 12 pounders, 30 pounders, and eventually, if you want to, work your way up to heavyweights to go to BattleBots. I see people all the time. They immediately start and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go win BattleBots." No, I hate to break it to you. I don't want to be a cloud here, but you're not going to win BattleBots your first time. So just please, I beg of you, just start small. You'll work your way up that way. And it's just the best. It's the best natural evolution you can go through when going through this sport.
So like, kind of what he said, but not as harsh. So like, just don't. Even if you like have a lot of money and you're pretty rich, like, still wouldn't spend a lot of money on that. And start off with simple stuff as like a wedge bot, and you can go into like a higher weight class, but start off with like the kits that they have there, and don't spend too much money. Just, money goes away real fast.
If you are in the Houston area, I would recommend starting with the 150 gram weight class. It is a very hot weight class down here right now. It's very easy to get into. Ian over here runs some absolutely fantastic workshops, building various 150 gram robots. So I would start there if you're in this area. Start with a kit or something, just so you learn what everything does and how to drive it and how to fix it and all that stuff. And then once you're comfortable with it, you can go out and make your own design, and then the sky's the limit after that.
My biggie is you need to start. Like, essentially it's perfection is the enemy of good, or good is the enemy, whichever way that expression works out. But yeah, I think so. But you can try for years to come up with something really good, but until it actually gets in an arena, you're probably not going to know how good it is, which is part of the reason for trying to start small, is learn how to drive, learn how to drive on something that is easy, that you can fight a lot with wherever you live. The most important thing essentially is arena time, and for arena time you need to have a working robot. If your robot doesn't actually work, you're just sitting there in the pits. You can learn stuff, but you won't really learn how to get good. So, yeah.
All right, excellent advice from the panel. Is there any audience questions? Does anyone have any questions for the panel?
So, kind of for you two guys, since you've been around for a while, what about combat robots? What kind of positive impact do you think combat robots has had on you?
I got an engineering degree, and I have an office job now, which I guess is maybe a detriment. Like, I have to put on like khaki pants to go to work. So that same thing was true in high school. So yeah.
So this might be a little odd, but I got 3D printers just so I can prototype my robots. And then I started actually 3D printing my robots. So I had all these 3D printers at the house. And then COVID hit. And everybody has to wear all these masks. And everybody's complaining that they hurt their ears and everything. So I was one of the people that jumped in and started printing the ear guards for everybody's masks. And I printed, my wife and I, we 3D printed and donated over 8,000 ear guards. So I would say that was a pretty big community impact. We mailed them out to almost over 30 states, I believe. So yeah, I believe that, you know, if I hadn't gotten into combat robots, I wouldn't have the knowledge to make those things to help all those people. So I think that was definitely a big community impact.
Any other questions?
I was going to hop one more on that
Okay,
one.
go ahead.
It was community impact, not personal. All right. So essentially it's doing things like this and inspiring more young people who are essentially trying to be like, well, me trying to make allow other people to do basically what I did, where you start off as a high schooler. And you have to have events for that. So, yeah, we're here.
Any other questions?
Here's a follow-up question is, what skills that you picked up in doing combat robotics do you think is valuable for young folks going forward, like career or otherwise? What skills that you picked up in combat robotics do you think is valuable for younger guys?
So what skills did you pick up that you think are valuable for younger guys? This is a good question because part of the reason we do these events is to expose the kids to these types of things. I can give you just my perspective, and then I'll let them fill in their side. Innovation Spark, what our goal is we want to spark their imagination, spark their interest in the sports. And this relates to the first time I took my 3-year-old son to a maker fair. We took him there, and it had such an impression on him that he was involved in STEAM activities all the way through to college. So that drove his whole life. He wanted FRC, FIRST Robotics, all the different robotics competitions. So the idea here is we want to get the younger kids to see something that's interesting and want to do it, because there's so many valuable skills. They learn how to solder, they learn how to 3D print, they learn how to connect remote controls together, and some of the stuff I don't even know how to do. I help these guys and I organize these events with them, but I admire their passion and their interest in it. So that's Innovation Sparks view of the world, and then Ian, go ahead from your personal view.
Troubleshooting. Troubleshooting, I think, is like the biggest actual skill you learn. It's something that weird number of people don't actually either seem to have the ability to work to just work through problems, try to figure things out. Is one of the somewhat nice things, but also a horrible thing about the combat robots is that you're pretty much on your own. You need to figure out how to make the thing work. There's like no easy way to get like completely handheld through a process. You ultimately need to be able to take your thing apart, put it back together, etc. And that helps in a bunch of different things in life, whether it or pretty much anything mechanical or electronic, messing with your computer, trying to figure out why the thing's not working, is the power on, things like that. So yeah, I'd say troubleshooting is actually probably the biggest like skill difference that you wind up learning over time, just because you're forced to. Like no one's going to help you. Well, no one's going to help you, but you need to be able to help yourself.
I guess the skill that I learned is just like faster thinking, because like when I'm like on the spot, I don't think a lot. So I think through this I feel like I've gotten thinking a little bit faster and smarter, I guess.
I'm sure that helps in between matches when you get destroyed and then you have like 15 minutes to go repair and get back into the competition for the next round. So that is a big act of God in some of these cases where their bots get really destroyed.
Specifically for Jose, I think one of the things that he's actually wound up learning a lot is that he really likes to be the he likes to be the referee and he loves to be the guy on the microphone trying to control things. He like really likes that, and I think it's good for him to discover that part.
Awesome. Anyone else? Oh, do you have a question? Okay. How much stress is in building your robot? I'll leave these guys answer that one.
So I guess with the type of stuff that I'm working with, I'm not going to just say, oh, the stuff like Spiky Steve in a box, because I've already said that like a billion times. For stuff like this, like, it's strangely hard because like you have to, like, you gotta think out of the box, pun absolutely intended. And so you're taking this thing that nobody would think could become a combat robot, and you're turning it into something that could be a combat robot, and you're having to think. And usually I absolutely procrastinate when it comes to projects. So I push it back and I push it back and I push it back, and then I'm doing it and I'm like, oh God, how do I do this? How do I, like for example, Spiky Steven, how do I take a box and turn it into a competitor from 1995? And so I'm covering it in duct tape, I'm taping 2 boxes together, I'm spray painting it gray, I'm stabbing it with nails, and then we put it on and we figure out that it lists to one side and it doesn't work. And so we take it off and we take off the top of the truck, we put it on, and then we realize it's too short and it doesn't drive. So we're like, okay, how do we do this? So we take another box and we screw it onto the chassis with 4 screws. And we're like, oh God, is this gonna work? And then we put the main chassis on and we zip tie it, because zip ties it's like the Band-Aids of robot combat. Zip ties and duct tape. And I'm all the while I'm just like, oh, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? Is it even going to move? Because like there was this period of time where it just couldn't turn. And like when it moved, it would make this really awful groaning sound. It was like when it tried to move. It was like really bad. So, but it definitely puts you under a lot of stress when you're making something out of something else that isn't really meant to be that thing. Again, that's kind of like, it's not specific at all, but like you get the gist. It's hard turning something into something that it's not, basically.
So like, stress-wise, I think there's a lot of stress put into it when it comes up to working, if it works or not, and if you did it right, because sometimes, like, if you make it and you mess up in a part that's like, that you did right away, or like your first step, you just have to take everything apart, and you have to put it all, you have to find the piece that's not working, and all that, et cetera, et cetera. Then you have to fix it, and then you have to put it all right back in, screw everything in, and if you lose something, then you might have to get a new one, and it takes time away if you don't whatever that word was that he said earlier ago. So I say it would take a lot of stress when it comes up to building it.
I think it's only as stressful as you make it. When I first started, I was younger, I just procrastinate, and then all of a sudden the night before, I'm up till 4 in the morning and I have a half-finished robot. But now that I'm older and I have a family and a house and all the stuff I have to take care of, I've learned to get it done ahead of time and manage it more. So I think that's been another learning experience as well. So I think the stress is just how you make it,
I'd say how close, essentially stress would be how close to the event are you and how ready are you? And then there's the stress during the actual event, but for building robots, I don't think it's super stressful unless you let yourself get in a really bad position, which is to some degree ultimately your fault. So I've messed up plenty of times. It's part of life. You procrastinate, or like things just come up in life and you're trying to do the thing like like you're spending multiple days of getting like 4 hours of sleep while trying to do like your day job and then like you're here and you're still like there were still people here working last night. I think at like 9:30 I wound up leaving. I don't know when they got kicked out, but it wouldn't surprise me if some people were here till 11, and realistically that's them trying to get their bot working and they're stressed about it. But it also is like whether or not you planned and whether you brought things.
But an observation for me would be that the stress that they have, they're learning to deal with it, right? Because they're stressed until they get it to the arena, and then they're like, "Oh, I did it," right? And so it also, I would think, over time helps them cope with working in a stressful environment, in a stressful situation, because now as they get more experience, they become less stressed because they know, oh, I got to do this, this, and this, and become more meticulous in activities they perform at those times. And
I mean, it's possible that's just selection bias. So it'd be people that the people who would show up more and more would be people who could actually deal with the stress,
Yep.
and who maybe thought that the stress part was actually the fun part.
very possible. So yeah. So some of that. So all right. Well, we're going to shift on over here. So thank you all for your questions. And you have one more question. Oh.
No, you need to not disturb Peter while he's building. He really needs more focus and to be able to spend lots of time out in the garage. Thank you for putting in air conditioning for him. It was very helpful. But no, getting like any project you're working on, sometimes it can be helpful to get distracted from it and like be able to be forced into taking a little break and give your brains time to process. But you also have, but if you're on a roll, you're on a roll, and yeah, to some degree it'd be like training for the people who like hide in a closet and code.
Satisfied are you when your robot is done and ready to battle?
This level. Yeah.
All right, I think they're ready to go. All right, let's get this going. So we got one more match.